against Silvername's lineup. It would have been, because it ended up it ended up beating other decks anyway. But I think, with perhaps a little bit more matchup knowledge, a little bit more practice in those unique matchups from Silvername, he might have been able to approach things in a different way that could have got him out.
Well, we are going to kick it off with maybe one of the weirder matches. Maybe Zhym looking to get a win on a deck he's most likely to in this series, to kick it off here with a Druid mirror, but definitely not a mirror in archetype. Fatigue Quest Druid here for Warma on the bottom, and Zhym with his Survivor of the Fittest, and I guess like the core build of Druid right now. It's the one Survivor of the Fittest, the one Mount Seller, and the double Anubis Defender. A shell I really like as Druid. But one that can be teched either way, and on what you're after here. But do you have any thoughts on this matchup? Because it's not one we went too deep on the testing this week.
It's not. I am insane enough to have actually played most of these decks on ladder, though, just to actually get a decent, robust number of things to talk about under my belt. So I actually have played this matchup from the Quest Druid side as well, and I won it a limited number of times, let's say. I do think that Warma has the key to victory in his opening hand, though, which is the Nourish. You really do need to be able to curve out, complete your quest, float all the mana you need to get your quest completion turns, and then immediately Nourish. That's the only way I've found of actually being able to keep up kind of board for board, threat for threat, tempo for tempo against what the more conventional build of Druid is able to do.
And I do think that although Zhym, of course, has got hold of that overgrowth and is going to start ramping till there's no tomorrow, but the Survival of the Fittest, I feel, is going to be one of the key cards here. Not that it's not generally in this Druid anyway, but I don't think Warma's deck really has the ability to just deal with giant minions, right? Like, I think Zhym can just get repeated value off just big minions on board in this game, in a very likely fashion. So I think that's going to be key for Zhym here.
That is the big problem, is you can't deal with two big minions. You can deal with like a giant and then lots of small minions, like a Tempo Mage board. You can deal with like an Edwin Van Cleef and then a bunch of small minions, like a Rogue board. You can't deal with just Survival of the Fittest, here's two minions. Like Starfall dealing 7 and then 2 to everything else just doesn't really interact with that in any meaningful way.
Zhym does have to get the card draw going, though, for this to happen in any reasonable time frame. And within that time, although he has got this Teacher's Pet buffed a little bit, Warma is going to be able to get his quest done.
And he does curve into both Oasis Surger and Nourish, as I was talking about, two of the absolute biggest deals. Nourish will catch him up on that ramp just a little bit. Obviously, he's still ramping much, much slower than his opponent has.
You like double crystal power here. It's obviously a nightmare if Lupin or some such larger beast gets kicked out here.
That's fine.
That's fine. Yep, like you said, just smaller minions are absolutely no problemo right now. It is just if something big came out and started hitting him repeatedly, but as you said, the Oasis Surger into Nourish is going to be a huge deal for Warma.
Oh no. Is he just favoured from here? This is just a whiff turn, and Warma's just going to go Oasis Surger into Nourish from this point.
Yeah, gets control of the board and has the backup of card draw and ramp for the following turn. It's ticking all the boxes for me.
Is Warma just ahead?
Yes.
Him
needs guardian animals. He needs an overflow. He needs something.
Oh, that's not it. That is not it at all.
Does he Ironbark the 1/1? The brave little dude just standing in the way of these Oasis Surges.
Just shooting hero power, I guess. Yeah. Shooting hero power instead. Now this Nourish is going to give Warma the heat that he's going to need. That's the one thing this deck can do, is it does counter pressure with surprising efficiency if you do give it that free turn and just allow it to be ahead on board. Rising Winds, Hidden Oasis, Oasis Surger, Anubis Defender, all of these cards are very, very efficient pressuring tools, as well as resource generation and healing.
No, Zhym's not happy. It's a bad draw, I can tell.
Yep, crystal power.
And there's just more for Warma. Warma can actually just Nourish again next turn if he wants to. It's not even bad.
Lysiana on curve. As a 7/7. End it.
See, I was going to suggest that, and I thought, nah, Sal's going to call me stupid and laugh at me. So
I wouldn't.
I didn't.
I would have praised you because I think that's a very interesting
Okay,
discussion point.
Good to know. Next time, the things I want to bail on, just do it. I hope that's going to be the one thing that's right.
Yeah. I think that's generally a good rule to live by. Like, if you're confident that something's a good idea enough to say it out loud, it's probably a terrible idea. But that nagging voice of doubt in the back of your mind, that's the part that has the good ideas. So just like, as long as that comes into play, then you're in business.
I'm going to put this into practice on ladder this week, and I'll let you know next week on Grandmasters how it went.
Okay. I don't think it was the play though, but I think you certainly should have been looked at there. But if you look at the equivalent, right? Look how much power you put into play here anyway, right? As opposed to just playing a 7/7. That's the big difference. If you didn't have any other way to generate big pressure, I would have advocated for it a lot harder.
It's a deeper discussion if Warma's hand is worse, right? But it wasn't. His hand was great. Plenty more options to do. And he's going for the guard drop.
Oh no.
Broom double line bark. Hold the line.
That achieve?
Nothing. I think Zhym's just going to lose.
This isn't supposed to happen.
Warma's just a god.
Yeah, apparently.
Like, he can't even really get through this Anubis. Then never mind anything else. Is this
just lethal?
Is it lethal?
It's just lethal.
Right?
It's just Starfall, push face, you're dead, next game.
Aggro Druid.
Hello? This isn't the script. Yeah, look at the grin.
Look at Warma.
Look at the grin on Warma's face. He cannot believe it. Even he was not prepared for this best case scenario. Druid, as I said, it's the least functional deck in his lineup, but it's at least capable of winning some other matchups, I would say, and it does the warrior job incredibly well. When I was saying there's some other matchups it can win, the Druid Mirror was not high on my list of matchups that it's supposed to win there. And Zhym's build is not supposed to draw that dry. Like, he has Mount Seller, Survival of the Fittest, Double Guardian Animals, all of these threats that he's able to draw into. So unlucky from Zhym's perspective.
It was a terrible draw from Zhym, of course. There's not really much he could have done in that game at all. But it is the difference. Your point about Druid is true, because guess what? The quest buffed cards, so Oasis Surgeon, Nourish, all of these things, even Hidden Oasis, these are all fantastic Hearthstone cards in a vacuum. And if that's an additional plan on top of the, like the Fatigue anti-bomb warrior tech, and that's why you can win games. Shaman, on the other hand, was just, I have spells that heal me. And that's it. That's the plan. And when that doesn't work, it really doesn't work. So I completely agree about the Druid. May not be the best deck in the world, but in this strategy, it looks like it's been putting in the work here for Warma. That was just a much faster game number one than I expected. So we are going to go to a break and get ready for our game number two. Don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back to continue this crazy series.
only have one item to a deserted island.
The one object I would take to the deserted island would be a bottle of water.
I would probably take Zhym with me to the deserted island. He seems like a guy that'd be really good in survival situations.
I just want to bring my laptop with the data.
Can I carry a boat? Does that work?
And who knows, maybe he's got other items on him, and then those can count as like bonus items. Or hopefully he's not just showing up naked, right? Like, so he's at least got clothes to work with, and maybe there's something in his pockets.
I think my girlfriend would technically count. I'd probably take her with me.
Si tuviera que llevar un objeto a una isla desierta para poder sobrevivir, sería un machete.
You know, 2 heads together is better than 1, and I'm sure we would figure our way out of the desert island that way. If not, I can eat him, right? So there you go.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Hearthstone Grandmasters European region. We are getting through our third match of the day between Zhym and Warma. And Warma's lineup, very high targeted lineup against Bomb Warrior, seems to be paying off for him so far, but not in the way we expected, as him taking a win with his Fatigue Druid against the Survival Druid from Zhym. Pretty unexpected result to happen so quickly as well, Sot.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about how, obviously, he's hard targeting Bomb Warrior. I think his decks do that very successfully. You know, 80% plus, which is kind of the number that you need to be at if you assume your other matchups are 0 for your strategy to make sense. His other matchups aren't 0 because of this deck, the Demon Hunter, which he actually has a good deal of splash targeting onto as well. He has multiple bases covered. If you'd have asked me which of these decks is going to get a free win this series, from Zhym's perspective, it was going to be the Druid, and that's absolutely just not been the case. The Druid fell at the first hurdle, and can actually still potentially run into trouble with the Turtle Mage as well, because it's not a Malagos variant, so it can actually just get fully locked out on board no matter how big its minions get. So I think Zhym is now in an incredible amount of trouble this series.
I would agree, and even this Control Priest, which is the most standard deck in his lineup overall, there's still the quad weapon removal, double ooze, double sticky finger, but also the double card tut defender is a pretty big deal because it not only is a taunt minion, of course, which helps stop getting hit in the face by Demon Hunter or Warrior, but it also just helps with the heal factor that Priest, in a weird way, can sometimes struggle with. Because unless they get hold of Apotheosis or Chain Renews, they do have an issue with like only healing 2 a turn, which sounds weird to say, but it's true. And the Card-Tut defenders can really push them over the edge with that, of course, the Reborn effect, making it effectively heal for 6 every time one dies.
That's fair. See how Warma wants to approach this here. I would advocate for Tempo Pyromancer. Warma seems to agree. I think it was a complete non-decision as soon as he drew the second one, but before that draw stage, it might have been a more interesting choice.
Right.
This is now a more interesting choice. Trade, play another Pyromancer is an option. Apotheosis is an option. Probably a pretty bad one, since it ends up as a 4 health minion even if you go face, and then you run into Coin Marrow Slicer. So I think just to replace the Pyros and trade is probably the most appealing.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I think the coin's a big deal, right? Because he does have Sticky Finger, so Zhym attacking him with a weapon isn't the worst thing in the world, but it is if it's before he can actually yoink it afterwards, so...
Oh, philosophy into philosophy. Beautiful stuff.
It's pretty horrible, that, isn't it? Like, I play a decent chunk of Soul Demon Hunter at the moment, and it's just the one you take literally any other card over that. It's pretty horrible.
Evasive Worm, more removals. Step number 1 to winning this matchup. Just don't get hit by minions.
I do like the Apotheosis now, though.
I love this.
Now you're not bothered if a weapon comes down, because you can just steal it the turn after.
if anything, it's the exact opposite. You're just baiting the weapon, right? You're saying,
yeah.
You're just saying you just have to weapon this turn.
Well, the positive for me really here is it's not like Warma needs there to be a weapon, right? He just has
Right.
Spellkin. He could just play the Evasive Worm if he really wants. Like, he's not locked in on this sticky finger or it's a hero power pass, which just makes this even stronger. It's kind of a win-win situation, almost regardless of what Zhym's turn looks like.
Agreed. Solskjaer was the one problem that he could run into there, and did so, but I do like the setup in theory. Yeah, this looks like just pretty clean. Spellkin, and hope you get a playable off one of the 1-mana spells. Probably worth holding on to the Renew at this point for more healing value.
He's always going to have the mana, isn't he? At some point or another, he doesn't have to really use it up now while he has it.
Yeah, come turn 7, he should have access to be able to weave in these 1-mana spells if he needs to.
I mean, if there's a weapon here, he can even do it next turn.
It's true.
Demons. Demons.
The fear that courses through your every fiber, every bone, every synapse of your body screaming at you that weapons are just a terrible idea when you play against this lineup.
I grow impatient.
What are you going to do? Just not play weapons the whole game? Like, come on.
Wait, there is another turn, right? You could just start emptying some of the cards from his right, get that Shard Shatter gone, so then you can like Altruist 1 cost with the Penflinger and the Philosophy.
Could also just coin Skull this turn.
It's true, yeah. Do you have the room for it?
He currently has 8 cards in his hand, so he would have 7, draw 3.
Would have to cast
yeah, he'd
something,
have to get a playable, yeah.
A little bit risky.
Whoa! Whoa! Spicy face attack. Gift of Luminance or Radiance, would not object to either.
And so it begins.
So it begins indeed.
Warma can just kill him soon.
Penflinger, Coin, Shard Shatter, Penflinger. Okay, this is cool. I like this. Keep play. Drop Penflinger and then just use Philosophy to recycle, get it back in his hand. Make sure he's stocking up on that maximum Penflinger damage.
Yeah, I mean, he is building towards a pretty impressive Altruist, especially if he gets this Skull in the near future. Yes.
He is.
Holy Nova or Breath of the Infinite seem fine. It's one of the few things that Warma doesn't really have right now is an AoE response to a board, so I do like him going for it. But you also could just Evasive Worm this and just not really be too upset.
Yeah, I think I like the Evasive Worm.
It's just clean, isn't it? It's just not really a problem.
Yeah, could also just smack it, play the Kartu, but I think he can afford and probably should afford to be greedy and try and get maximum healing out of all of his healing effects in this game because he just does have such high potential to just fatigue the deck, essentially.
Yep, I like this. Just seeing you trading it into a minion that can kill this. The Militia off the top, though, is going to help. But wait, how many soul fragments does he even have? Not that many, right?
I think 3. Yeah, 3. He does go Skull, so it looks like he is lining up for the big old Altruist turn.
And it's going to be a big one as well. Look at that.
Yeah.
Not really going to be one big burst turn, though, right? It's probably more realistically going to be a couple of turns.
Was the downside of the dragon play on the previous turn.
It is true. Well, he still has time, right? He has some very good plays that mean he's not at a huge rush to play this cleric. Obviously, you'd like the ability to, but it's not going to make or break the game, at least right now.
Right. Zhym, I'm just going to trust you, okay? Whatever you do here, I'm going to call it the right play. I'm pretty sure you've been in this situation more times than I have with Penflinger Demon Hunter.
Yeah, ignore the pen
so
flingers,
this was
don't
the right
overthink
play.
it,
Yep.
play the one card.
Yep, this was the play, sure.
What a weird position we're in, right? Zhym has to consider his own health if he wants to hero power this down.
This is the problem. This is the card that Zhym does still currently lose to, though, because he doesn't have that one-off Soul Mirror, which is really the only answer that Priest is able to make. You can draw a dragon and then still Cleric of Scales into it, or you can find some way to generate an auxiliary removal spell that goes along with the Breath of the Infinite.
He does have 2 Wave of Apathy as well.
Oh, dragon. Draconic Studies. Really? You're just gonna try and tank this? Okay. Just gonna go with the wave. Sorry, with the gift. Sure, it's fine.
Maximum heal, right? Look at that.
Yeah,
That is such a nightmare to get through. Wow.
It was interesting because he could have gone Draconic Studies, Cleric of Scales, and then still had 7 mana left if he drew Soul Mirror. And if he didn't draw Soul Mirror, he could spend that 7 mana on Kartut Defender Wave of Apathy if he missed, which is kind of what I was looking at doing that turn.
Okay.
But I think he's just really fixated on getting this Kartut Defender play to happen.
And it's a strong play, so I don't blame him.
Yep.
Would you like some soul fragments? I have a few.
Uh-huh.
Our tombs.
Again, I just trust you, Zhym. Might be misguided, but I'm just going to assume you know what you're doing, because I have no idea this turn.
Okay, is he going to Blade Dance? I don't think this worked out how Zhym wanted it to. Like, did he need to use Penflinger that turn? I guess it's fine if he just wants to use one, but
Yeah.
with only Blade Dance as a spell in hand, he is leaving this a little bit open. And I think he could have just played another Jailer and had pretty much the same outcome.
That's a lot of damage coming through, though.
Breath of the Infinite is going to do some decent work here, but not clear the board. I have to go fishing for the Soul Mirror.
Twin Tyrant?
I was even looking at Aeon Reaver because it does actually kill the biggest minion that doesn't die to breath. So he could still just breath and... Oh, nice. He has to do that. I was looking if there's any cute ways he can save this, so then he gets the Soul Mirror with the Breath of the Infinite combined. But he just can't leave Altria, so which is what the turn would basically end up doing.
Yeah, I was kind of checking similarly whether he could wave first and then Soul Mirror, so he's representing counter-lethal on the next turn, but that has the same problem. It just leaves the Altruis up. What are you doing here?
Zhym does have that second and final Penflinger active now. Just going to throw it and then get this Chaos Strike down. Get back to the hand and start pumping out extra damage. Does have the ability to use a Blade Dance here as well, yeah, if he wants to just completely push them, not only the most damage, but also keep these minions on board. Like I said, you know, Philosophy is terrible, but when it works on the Jailers, it does make them significant minions. It's twofold.
That's true. Huge amount of damage going through, and it looks like Zhym has got one of the potentially problematic decks in this series over the line, unless Warma can piece something pretty spectacular together over the coming turns. It's going to be down to that Bomb Warrior if Warma can't find a solution here. Looks like finding a solution is certainly going to be difficult. That needed to be Radiance or Renew, I think.
Yeah, he's just dead. Zhym is going to get a victory here. Kane, a Warblade, second slice, along with that Penflinger to help out if so required. He's going to even up the series 1-1. Zhym going to win with the Demon Hunter, and it looked so bad earlier on. But again, there was just that window, and honestly, a lack of card draw just fighting Priest once again here, because Warma didn't really get hold of a lot of resources there. The Cleric was quite late, and the Apotheosis was dealt with quite early, of course, and although the weapon swings looked good with the steals from the Sticky Fingers, it just wasn't enough to actually close the game out. He didn't get the board to stick long enough.
Yeah, and I would still wonder about that turn where he went with the Kartu Gift of Luminance play, where I was talking about how you can kind of go fishing for Soul Mirror, and then if you miss, you can bail out into the Kartu Defender with Wave of Apathy. Because yes, he put those two Kartu Defenders in the way, and they healed him back up to 30, but they got pushed through, and the board that he left up by not Soul Mirroring with the 5/5s and the 3/3s just ended up smacking him in the face afterwards anyway. So that healing ended up getting completely negated. So I think a lot of the time that interaction just lines up. You know, they play Sociologist, you just kill it with Soul Mirror. I think that's just kind of what you do in the matchup a lot of the time. Obviously, these decks are different. You know, Altruist, Penflinger, Demon Hunter, and Quad Weapon Destruction, Anti-Bomb Warrior, Priest, that matchup is going to be slightly different. I'm not used to playing with Kartu Defender in my deck, so maybe I'm just missing how powerful that possible interaction was. But we shall leave all of that in the past, Raven, because now we are moving on to the real meat and potatoes of this series. The Bomb Warrior is coming out to play for Zhym.
Yeah, and Bomb Warrior might even be selling it a little bit short here, because yes, it generates bombs, it has wrench calibers in the list, but that's about it. There's no upgrades, there's no hold pillagers or anything like that to gain extra wrench calibers or extra swings. There are just some other defensive tools, and of course that's Zephyrus, which if put into the late game can make some big impacts that we actually did see in testing as well. Even Zephyrus Tyrion does make a big difference, even in a deck or against a deck that has a lot of weapon removal here. So we'll see how it plays out, and Warma going to lock in his Mage as his first port of call to go up against this warrior. Ignore those class icons, they are not correct.
They are not indeed. Polkelt in the opening hand, normally very, very important in most matchups, less so against Bomb Warrior, because any bomb that gets shuffled into your deck will reshuffle your deck in order, so Polkelt is quite often just a Yeti on curve most of the time, which, you know, is still very powerful, but not the game-winning impact that it can have in some other matchups.
You don't pick the ones.
Yeah, and okay. Turtle Mage is definitely a deck I enjoy watching good players play and hate watching myself play it, mainly. But it's definitely, it feels more complicated to watch than it actually is. But what is Warma going to try and do here? What is priority number one, especially after seeing one potion drawn already?
Priority number one is honestly destroying those weapons as best as he possibly can. Like, that's why he's designed the deck the way he is. But outside of that, if you're talking like a more conventional version of the matchup, you don't really have inevitability ever in this matchup as the Turtle Mage, because the big problem is that a fourth spell essentially gets shuffled into your deck with the bomb. So that means you can whiff on any real plan that you have to set up. So generally, your goal overall is just to be as secure as possible on multiple fronts so that you can mitigate those whiffs when they come up, right? You never want to be in a spot where it's like, okay, I'm going to play this one turtle, and if it misses Frost Nova or if it misses Potion of Illusion, I'm just dead, right? Like, you need to have contingency plans, and that involves generally fighting for board quite aggressively early on, keeping your health total high, potentially just aggressing on the warrior as much as possible so they have to be on the defensive, so that you do have that window in the late game to potentially fail on a couple of turtles in spots where it doesn't end up mattering that much.
All right, and in the meantime, Zhym is just going to be trying to push forward, and this Polkelt, for now at least, because there is no Wrench Caliber shuffling in anything in, is going to make Warma draw his deck in top to bottom order.
Yes. So he will, at the very least, get his second turtle next turn. So he does have both of those in his hand, which is actually a very big deal. He doesn't then start drawing his spells as he would in the usual version of the deck, because the usual version of the deck plays Blizzard, which is quite often the next most expensive card. Warma cuts that card for Ice Barrier instead, So he's going to start drawing a few of his most expensive minions here, like Kartuk Defender, if the Wrench Caliber isn't able to reshuffle sometime soon.
Having a couple of connection issues, but the players are getting back there, of course, within a few seconds, I hope. But even just looking at that card in the middle of Zhym's hand right now, which I think is a pretty huge deal, is just Galakrond, right? Just being able to just push out so much damage turn after turn with a kind of weapon that can't be broken because it's a hero power. I've seen, at least in testing, to be quite strong as just another way for Zhym and Warrior in general to get the job done.
Yeah, and something that also did come up in testing was this kind of interaction where Polkelt did come down, and then the deck didn't get reshuffled for longer than I, as the Turtle Mage player in that instance, expected. And that then caused problems, because I started drawing down very, very close to where my second Potion of Illusion was, having already drawn one naturally. Coincidentally, the exact same situation that Warma finds himself in right now. Which then kind of spawned a discussion between all of us about, is this something we should try? Should we just try never shuffling their deck and letting them draw their cards in order until they run out of potions, and then trying to set up a win condition from there? So it'll be very, very interesting. I don't necessarily think that's something that Zhym will end up trying, but it'll be curious to see, like, if he just never draws a Wrench Caliber this game, whether it just weirdly works out in his favor from this point.
And that's the thing, it's less about whether he tries it or whether he even has the option to decide.
Yeah.
It's like you said, he might just not draw a Wrench Caliber for a while. There's the Cloud Prince, which is one of the ways this deck does deal some damage. It does play the Ice Barrier, of course, which is the secret, will then proc tons of repeat damage from a Cloud Prince, but that is still a little bit of a way away.
Yeah, and however, having just said that, now the Cloud Prince is drawn from Warma, which I guess does always happen before the potions. That is a little optimistic from Zhym, because as long as Zhym also hasn't shuffled a bomb into his opponent's deck, there's no failure rate on the turtles. So the turtles can just play an Ice Barrier, you play a Cloud Prince, you duplicate your Cloud Prince with Potion of Illusion, and you just go ham, and the game ends almost immediately from that point. So Warma is in an extremely comfortable position here, having now duplicated this turtle. He can now start going off as soon as next turn with Ice Barriers to protect himself and activate those Cloud Princes while locking out the board with Frost Novas as well. He's in extremely good shape this game.
Yep, step one with that first turtle is just get it down as safely as possible, only facing down what would that be, 8, 9, 12 damage with the hero power, which when he's on 30 he's safe, and then sparks are going to start flying next to him with that 1 mana Tortollan already. But there is finally Wrench Caliber for Zhym and a hero power, so he's actually been able to push a good chunk of damage, and it does reshuffle the deck, which I'm not going to say is a positive for Warma, but you understand my point. It's like a good time, right, for the deck to be shuffled.
It is, but most importantly, there's a bomb going in the deck. I think if a bomb doesn't go in the deck here, Zhym has approaching 0% to be able to win this game, because Warma just gets to set up the perfect clean plan every single turn. Now he might just miss the Ice Barrier on the Crucial Turtle. He might miss the Potion of Illusion on the Crucial Turtle. So he has to set up, mitigation strategies. First and foremost, deal with this weapon so that it doesn't end up just smashing you out of the game.
And one of those strategies actually could have been not necessarily this turn, but the 1-cost Tortollan into, worst case, a potion, so you have 2 more 1-cost Tortollans in hand, right? So he does have that forced option there, and we do see the bomb in his hand. Or as the option, sorry, not in his hand.
Yeah. So now Warma is reset all the way back to stage 1, which is he just has 1 Tortollan for 8 left in his hand because he whiffed on that potion there.
Especially considering he has to trade into this Barov, which then kills his second one even on board.
Yeah.
Now Zhym has a few options. There's also the weird chance that he could consider how fast he can draw his deck to get Zephyrus active, to maybe even remove the secret with Zephyrus could be something that, at least in our testing, we didn't overexplore because we weren't playing. This situation didn't really come up, but it is something to consider that Zephyrus can effectively snipe a secret and remove that ice barrier.
Yeah, it's kind of true. Some way from being active just yet, though. Zhym trying to figure out how best to go about this repressuring again.
I mean, Deathwing looks like the straightforward route, doesn't it? But that straightforward doesn't always mean best.
Someone's gotta lead the charge.
Okay. Problems abound.
It's okay. His turtle won't whiff anymore.
I mean, that is true. He now gets Ice Barrier, Frost Nova, and Bomb every single time.
These are the tough ones, right? 8 mana Tortolan. There was an option for him to drop the 1 mana and the potion last turn. And then try and force something with the turtles, because then he would have got 2 more 1 costs back to maybe go again. Maybe go for a freeze.
No,
or
well, so he was kind of obligated to play Sticky Finger last turn, so he would have gone Sticky Finger and hard cast Potion. I think that's the best he could have done that turn. If he wanted to give himself security, he wouldn't have been able to fit his existing 1-cost one in there. But he would. What you're saying is correct in that provides a better security blanket for himself than what he ended up doing, which had the failure rate which we witnessed happening. Speaking of failure rates, Warma has hit the ultimate one now.
I don't know, Saul. I've seen a lot of Mage games recently, and Invocation's a pretty good card.
That's true. That is true. So now
Also,
Warma...
he has the Prime in his deck, right?
He does have a Prime in his deck, yeah, but now he just kind of has to reset all the way to hard fatigue, which is honestly very doable in this matchup because they are so limited on bombs in Zhym's particular build. He's already dealt with one Wrench Caliber. Once he deals with the other one, if he can find another Sticky Finger or Ooze, that's really all the damage that Zhym is able to output outside of this Galakron hero.
The biggest struggle I've found this deck has in this position is clearing your opponent's board to even give your own Tortolan a chance of living to combine it with the potion, right? It's so hard to do all of those things in one turn, and you normally have to find a way. As your Explorer, go for some value dragons. Okay, going with the Caligos potion.
Yeah, he's just gradually trying to warp his deck into a weird tempo mage here, just taking various mage spells to regenerate. That's not a good board state to be facing down when you're trying to transform yourself into a tempo mage.
Just hard cast Nova here.
It's just got to be Imprisoned Observer, doesn't it? Like... Okay.
One interesting point here is when you talk about fatigue, you are right, because the combination of the ice barriers, not that there's one active right now, but ice barrier along with 18 cards in hand mean the onus is still on Zhym to actually win this game, as he's only sat on 11 here.
But the
it's not like Zhym can try and armor up now and survive, right?
Right. But the problem is that the Galakron hero still just chucks out so much damage over time.
Yeah.
There's another problem in that Warma doesn't have the weapon destruction that he needs to prevent the game-ending damage coming through, but assuming that was the case, he would still have a problem with this Galakron hero from now, because You can lock this out. For example, like you play Frozen Shadow Weaver in your deck, so you can weave that into your potion turns and lock out the Galakron from ever being able to attack you as well. But Warma doesn't have infinite anything anymore. That's the point.
Right.
He has a limited number of resources, so denying that Galakron for a long enough period of time to actually fatigue Zhym here is going to be very difficult, and it just got even more so with that bomb draw.
And this is it, right? Everything just costs too much. If he goes Kartut into Potion, then he gets a 1-mana 1/1 Kartut next turn, which, okay, he can just use again to heal, but it is a relatively weak turn, isn't it? When we start to look at Hearthstone turns in general.
Ooh, that's the Blade Storm.
Ooh, it's the Zephyrus is what I'm looking at.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's what I'm saying. The Blade Storm activated the Zephyrus. That's what he needed.
Oh, right. I thought you were like there's some kind of Blade Storm play here. I was like,
no. You just Earth shocked your way through this. Yeah, Polymorph. Fine. Shadow Madness, also fine. Pick your poison. Smash the face.
Oh.
Zhym has won with his Bomb Warrior. And
you can see it on his face.
He's won with his Bomb Warrior. He's won with his Demon Hunter, Raven. He has the free win deck left to win with because that's the one he lost with. What is this Bizarro World Series?
You've got to be careful listening to that sentence because it didn't really make sense in the real world.
It made perfect sense.
No, it was factual. It made no sense.
Okay.
Yeah, but Zhym does have his Druid left, of course, and this is a big problem now for Warma. What started off as potentially a crazy series with him taking a win we didn't expect, he's also now taken losses that we didn't expect either, and this is a big problem. Now he has all this weapon destruction against a deck that does not run any weapons and instead runs very powerful, minion-based pressure, and sometimes that pressure can go too fast because of the ramp cards available to him. So this is suddenly look like an uphill climb here for Warma.
It does, but if we're going to look for the silver lining for Warma, and it does exist, it is fairly real. He does still have, in a vacuum, Turtle Mage versus non-Malygos Druid, which is a good matchup. He has teched his deck in a way that makes it worse in the matchup, but if you want to ignore all that, he's still fine. Outside of that, he then has Priest, 2-Ops Priest against non-Malygos Druid, which is still an okay matchup, not a good one, but again, he's made his deck significantly worse with the way that he's teched it. So if he can just keep all those weapon destructions buried at the bottom of both of his decks, he might just find a way to get through this. But I think the problems with the Turtle Mage are a little bit deeper rooted than that, because his Ice Barrier version of the deck does reduce his power against Druid significantly, because the win condition against Druid when they're not playing Malygos is just to be able to freeze their board every turn. If you can freeze their board every turn, they never kill you. Warma only plays 2 freezes in his deck, which means if he draws both Frost Novas, he doesn't then have Blizzard to fall back on as a card for his turtle to cast. Even more so, he can't ever actually clear away a board, which is sometimes something that's important to do, but usually you don't really mind. You're happy to just lock it down either way. And there's a Frost Nova in the opening hand already for Warma. He does have Sphere of Sapience, though, so that's the security blanket that he needs to make sure that second Frost Nova doesn't appear in his hand.
And at this point, does he actually have to almost never use it up unless it's on exactly Frost Nova? Because the fear with this weapon is if you see a card that you don't fancy, even they call it a potion now, and he shuffles it, the next card he draws from that shuffle could be the Frost Nova.
Exactly.
So I think he has to take absolutely anything that is not Frost Nova at this point.
You are absolutely correct. It's a double failure rate as well, because not only is there what you described, where you say no to one card and then you have no choice on the next one that you get swapped out for, so that could be the Frost Nova. But also, if you use up charges, it might just show you a Frost Nova off the top, but you've just used up all your charges, so you're not able to then throw that away at the end. So, yeah, I think with one Frost Nova in hand, Warma is largely obligated to just take everything he's given.
Here, though, Zhym, not exactly off to a flying start, but he does have access to the Guardian Animal, so even if it takes him a little bit longer than normal to get there, he can go off with it. Maybe even a Coin Twilight Runner this turn as well.
Ooh. That's unfortunate. You could just Nature Studies this turn, Twilight Runner next turn, Guardian Animals the turn after, while still preserving his coin, just using the Nature Studies discount. It's a possibility, I guess.
I think starting Nature Studies can always be good here because he could just get ramp, right? And then he's just more than happy.
Yeah, but you can also do it this way, right? Where you just coin the Twilight Runner, and then you get your Nature Studies discount next turn, which still carries over into turn 6 when you can play the Guardian Animals. So I think this is actually the best way to do it, yeah.
What makes something real?
Yeah, this works out fine as long as that Nature Studies wasn't going to get him overgrowth, right?
Ogremancer and Vincent? Insane.
Big combo.
Kind of shuts down that Nature Studies plan, huh?
Yes. I mean, he has the bloom, right?
Yeah, drawing the bloom off the Twilight Runner was a big deal here.
He is running double Thresher as well. So.
Exactly. Now he can potentially bloom Guardian Animals into the 2/2 taunts that get spawned and get really clutch cleaves. He gets double cleaver here. It's insane. It's 1. Okay. You want the damage on the Ogremancer? I don't want it to damage on the Ogremancer.
If it doesn't die, does it matter right now?
Yes.
I think that's the problem, right? He couldn't have killed it, so it's still the same problem next turn. I think if he kills everything else, he's not going to cast any more spells till next turn, and then he tries to kill it the turn after.
Mm.
And I'll go for double 3 drop, actually. Like, the freeze onto the Thresher seems pretty solid.
Yep. Frozen Shadow Weaver, pretty clutch pickup here.
They also go for Brain Freeze to kill it, but I don't think that is actually needed right now. I think Brain Freeze is much better later on when there's a must-freeze target for Warma.
Yeah. I mean, he might still end up having to do it next turn, because if he can't lock out the attack again, it's just, you know, too much for him to deal with, but I still think it's totally fine just to freeze it out this turn.
Oh, Zhym, just do anything for some ramp right now.
Yeah. Except cast Nature Studies, apparently.
I think Zhym might be putting too much respect for this ogre.
I think he might be, especially with another Guardian Animals into another Cave Hydra in his deck. That one was on purpose, by the way. Another Late Thresher in his deck that he can use to, you know, again, punish essentially the 2/2 taunts that come out. Maybe he should have just been a little bit more disrespectful. Just gone for the gusto.
That was a charge used up for Warma, so there was a slight fear then for a sec.
Yes.
Got away with it though with an Earthen Ring Farseer. It does end up having to use the Brain Freeze, but I do agree, holding onto it very nice, just in case.
Doesn't fit the ping to finish it off though, which gets punished by Crystal Power and Iron Bark in Warma's deck. It's kind of sketchy.
Oh, the Anubisath as well, pretty nice. Is there a great reason not to Ironbark this? I guess it means it gets traded into anyway, but this Observer's about to go off, right? So doesn't he want to Ironbark something?
Right.
No.
Okay. Oh, new fate again! Oh!
Warma, you are playing with my emotions right now.
The size of the coconuts on this man.
So Zhym has held off on these nature studies, held off on these iron barks, and there we go. There's the payoff.
Yeah.
He's just going to rip the Mount Seller straight off the top this turn, and why not?
I think at this point, part of Warma's, quote, like, brave weapon activations, and not even so much that he's trying to avoid Frost Nova at this point, it's that he's trying to find Turtle at this point, right? Because he also knows he's on a limited clock to even be able to start looping here, because he has one Frost Nova in hand that he can hardcast, which he's almost certainly going to have to use now. And then after that, if he doesn't aggressively push with his weapon to find the Turtle, it doesn't matter whether there's a Frost Nova still in his deck or not, right? If he's not able to draw the Turtles.
Yeah, I think Warma would very much like to do some powerful things this game, and
Yes.
he's not been given the chance.
Yeah, just has to recycle again.
Oh. It's just not quite worked out here for Warma. Bear in mind, though, this would finish the week for him. 2 matches and a 1-1 score. Which isn't bad with this targeted lineup. Obviously, he'd love it to just absolutely stomp Warrior, but again, Zhym's Warrior was built in quite a different fashion, and that early Galakron made a large difference to the game, as well as, of course, being locked out of the double potions. Even if he takes a loss here, he will still be at 3-2, which is decent going into the last week.
Right.
It's not by any means over for either of these players, regardless of who wins here.
Right.
Oh, just survival, right?
Nothing better to do. You need some cards out of your hand so you can end up overflowing.
Yeah.
Try and find some more resources. Threatens lethal immediately on board. Forces the second Frost Nova, however it comes. Like, based on what Warma did this turn, does he have a turtle in his hand or not? 'Cause I would say no.
I would also say no. But he could have also even just threw out a broom if he wanted to kill off the Observer and make his Mount Seller more protected. I don't know. Oh, I guess he couldn't, right? Because his board would be full from the Mount Seller.
From the Mount
If he had
Seller,
to.
yeah.
Innovate and the survival. Yeah. Still, I was surprised that that's just you just want the stats, right? You've just seen one hardcast Nova, but
He needs another one to at least stall. That's not it. All the minions on the other side of the board are 3-drops by nature of them being Mount Seller beasts, so Conjurer's Calling is not going to find him a Doomsayer.
and look at Zhym. I think Zhym knows, right? This is not a play of someone who has Tortollans in hand ready to go, right?
Yep.
This is reeks of desperation right now for going for a one thief.
Time runs out on me.
Well, I'm pretty sure Warma just moused over all the minions on the other side of the board. They're 3-drops. That's how it works.
Quick, give him a 2-drop somehow.
Nope.
Not going to be enough. And I'm not even going to count Subtle because
You
you
never
don't.
count.
No, Survival of the Fittest looks like it's going to add up to simply lethal from where I'm sat looking at it. Zhym going to take the series over Warma 3-1. A nice sigh of relief there, I think, from Zhym. Although we said this was going to be the easier deck to get a win with. I think the sheer fact he took a win with that Warrior was huge for him here, as that should have been a lot harder than it looked. And a big win. That's going to put Zhym, I think, on what, 4-1 now in Division B? It's a huge deal.
It is indeed, yeah. It's a huge deal for Zhym. It's also, low-key, a huge deal for Boar Control, because Boar's one win that he has here is actually against Zhym, which means if things come down to Tiebreaker 2, where it's strength of your opponents that comes into play,
That you've
Boar-
beaten.
Yeah, that you've beaten. Boar is going to be in a very, very good position overall because Zhym is now fighting his way up to the very, very top of the standings in Division B. And while I think there were some moments